Juventus has been involved in cases of cheating, fixing, and lying. Yes, that's true. And it should be known that the cases are many and not just one. It's pretty weird that the mightiest club in Italy has been into such shady businesses that all of their success until now is questionable. And in this video, I'll be uncovering Juventus, aka Old Lady's unethical practices, which may put the club administration in jail. Juventus was founded on November 1st, 1987, and is commonly referred to as Juve or La Vecchia Signora, the Old Lady. This is without a doubt the best football club in Italy, having won 36 league titles, 14 Coppa Italia titles, and 9 Supercoppa Italiana titles. As mentioned before, Juventus, with such a rich history, got into cheating and fixing, which raised questions about whether the things they won were hard-earned or by influencing officials. This further led to investigations being opened into them, with the first one being the Calciopoli scandal, which dates back to 2006 and stems from a rather unexpected place: the doctor's office. Back in the 1990s, Juventus' team doctor, Riccardo Agricola, found himself under the spotlight due to allegations of doping. The situation reached its climax in September 2002, when Agricola was accused of providing performance-enhancing drugs. Little did anyone know that this revelation would turn into something much bigger. The real thing came to light when investigators stumbled upon a series of phone conversations. These weren't your everyday chats, as they involved top Juventus executives and referee appointers in Serie A. While the scandal was quickly dubbed as match fixing, the crux of the matter was something else entirely. Let me explain. At the heart of these leaked calls was Luciano Moggi, Juventus' sporting director, who allegedly attempted to sway match outcomes by hand-picking favorable referees, and this sent shockwaves through the football world. The scandal reached its peak during the 2004 to 2005 season, when leaked phone calls between Moggi, Antonio Giraudo, and various football officials surfaced in Italian newspapers. The revelations were so scandalous that even the most unlikely readers, like the elderly, were gripped by the unfolding drama. Then, in July 2006, Italian football was rocked by a seismic decision. Stefano Palazzi, the prosecutor, declared that 4 of the country's powerhouse clubs should face the ultimate punishment, which was expulsion from Serie A. Lazio, Fiorentina, and Juventus were all on the same firing line, with Juventus facing a particularly harsh fate, which was relegation to Serie B. But the drama didn't end there. Juventus also had their 2004 to 2005 Serie A title stripped away, which was a bitter pill to swallow. And to add salt to the wound, the title was handed over to Inter Milan, sparking controversy and debate. Yet what stirred even more intrigue was the revelation that Inter Milan, too, had their hands in the scandal. Despite Juventus' lack of direct involvement, they chose not to challenge the decision. Why? Well, FIFA's ominous threat of severe sanctions loomed large and discouraged any thoughts of resistance. As Juventus grappled with their unprecedented fall from grace, key players jumped ship. Icons like Lilian Thuram, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Patrick Vieira, and Fabio Cannavaro bid farewell, leaving a void in the squad. Yet, amidst this mass departure, some players remained loyal. Pavel Nedved, Gianluigi Buffon, David Trezeguet, and Alessandro Del Piero stood firm and were determined to go through the storm. Initially, Juventus toyed with the idea of contesting the decision, but the odds were stacked against them. The courts had already shut down similar appeals from other involved clubs. Now, faced with unfavorable odds, the entire Juventus board, including Luciano Moggi, resigned, signaling the end of an era. Moggi, worn down by the relentless onslaught of accusations, bowed out because, to put it simply, he had enough. And so, this continued. Ever since 2010, Juventus had an undeniable thirst to reclaim their lost glory. When Luciano Moggi's punishment was partially overturned by the Supreme Court in March 2015, Juventus seized the opportunity to seek retribution. With their sights set on the Italian Football Federation, Juventus pursued legal action, seeking a staggering €443 million in damages for the 2006 relegation. In a twist of fate, FIGC president Carlo Tavecchio gave a proposition: drop the lawsuit and the lost titles could be returned. Flash forward to September 2015. The Italian Supreme Court released a long document explaining its final decision, which focused on Juventus because all the other clubs couldn't be put on trial due to time limits. If they wanted to reconsider the judgment, they would need to start a new legal process. So even though some of Mogi's charges were cancelled because of time limits, the court still said that he was involved in helping Juventus for his own personal gain. But this is not where our story ends. Later in 2021, Juventus found itself under the watchful gaze of the Italian government. Consob, the regulatory body that oversaw the stock exchange, raised concerns about certain transfers and hinted at potential violations of financial fair play regulations, or even criminal law. Although Juventus wasn't the sole subject of investigation, it stood at the forefront. Initially, all charges were dropped, but the club faced a sudden reversal when a federal prosecutor decided to reignite the case. At the heart of the matter laid a fundamental question: that who wields the authority to determine a football player's value? In conventional high-profile transfers, the process seems straightforward. Clubs negotiate, agree on a fee, and the player moves, with the transfer fee dictating the player's valuation on financial records. However, the waters get murky when swaps involving players alongside cash transactions enter the picture. Take, for example, 2020 exchange between Juventus and Barcelona. Juve traded Miralem Pjanic and a hefty sum to Barcelona in exchange for Arthur Melo. Juventus and other clubs stumbled upon a cheeky secret that player values could be inflated in such swaps. Regardless of a player's actual worth, Juve and Barça agreed to assign staggering values to Pjanic and Arthur. This move allowed them to pump their financial statements with exaggerated figures, which meant on paper everything was in accordance with the regulations. And what was their defense for this violation, you ask? It was a claim that only the clubs hold the authority to set player values, and this argument was surprisingly accepted by the authorities in May and actually made Juventus seem innocent. But hey, Juventus wasn't the only one. Other Italian clubs were involved in similar transfer dealings, which were seemingly within soccer regulations. However, Juventus faced all the heat because the investigation didn't originate from European soccer governing bodies, but rather from the Italian government, mainly due to its status as a publicly traded entity. Allegations swirled, accusing the club of misleading shareholders and engaging in unlawful accounting practices. And so, Juventus found itself trapped in a web of controversy, facing repercussions that would see them missing out on European competitions for the following year. Okay, I know this might be a lot to take in, but there is yet another scandal. This one was called the Prisma case and was quite different from the Plusvalenza scandal. The trouble started when the police raided Juventus' training facilities and offices in Turin and Milan. They were looking into some shady deals involving player salaries during the pandemic, of which 16 important people, including Juventus' top executives like Agnelli, Pavel Nedved, and Fabio Paratisi, were under investigation. The entire issue revolved around the deals made between the club and its players, with Juventus claiming that they were saving a whopping 90 million euros by cutting player wages. But it turned out they were lying. Investigators found out that the players only agreed to give up 1 month's pay, while the book said that they agreed to 4 months. This made a lot of people, like investors, mad and worried about what was going on. As this information became public, Juventus kept saying that they did nothing wrong, but things got so serious that the whole board decided to step down. Even though it should be noted that this was not going to be Calciopoli 2.0, it was still a big deal. It wasn't about fixing matches this time, but about how the club was handling its money during tough times, like the pandemic. So what happened next? Juventus got hit hard, with a 10-point deduction in the league, dropping them from 2nd to 7th place. Fans were furious and started threatening subscription cancellations to Sky Sports and DAZN. In a related inquiry, Juventus proposed a plea bargain for false accounting on staff salaries on May 29, 2023, which was accepted the following day, resulting in a fine of 718,240 euros, without further penalties. But UEFA still found Juventus guilty and slapped them with a huge 20 million euro fine. They even banned Juventus from playing in European competitions for a whole year. But what really surprised us was that Juventus didn't even try to fight these punishments. they just accepted them. Why? Well, they wanted to put an end to all the uncertainty and make things clear for everyone. As Juventus' club president Gianluca Ferrero said, they believed in what they did, but they just wanted to move on and focus on the future. It was a tough time for Juventus, marked by hefty fines, a point deduction in the league, and a wave of resignations. To mention a few, 8 key executives, including Pavel Nedved, endured an 8-month ban, Andrea Agnelli given a 24-month ban, and Fabio Paratici, saddled with a 30-month suspension, had to bid farewell to their positions. Sadly, with all of this, Paratici was actually the one who got affected the most, as he had to relinquish his role as Tottenham Hotspur's managing director of football. So, I hope Juventus learns that success on the pitch can easily be overshadowed. Here's to hoping that Juventus isn't cooking up yet another scandal. But hey, if they are, we'll surely be back with another video covering that. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. I'll see you all in the next one.